All right, let's get one thing straight. I, Frank, am not your average Brooklyn Bulldog. You might think I'm just another scrappy city dog, happy to chase pigeons, bark at mailmen, and leave little messages all over the block. But let me tell you, I have a secret side, one that even Henry, my beloved human, has just begun to appreciate. You see, I'm a forest dog. Yes, that's right, a forest-loving, tree-smelling, dirt-digging, squirrel-watching forest dog. And it's in the forest where I find my greatest joy. Let me set the scene. My human, Henry, is what they call a career man. He's got his daily ritual, the suit, the coffee, the big leather bag, and the routine that seems to revolve around him typing all day in an office where nothing ever happens. Don't get me wrong, I love Henry, especially when he scratches that spot behind my ears that only he seems to know about. But sometimes a bulldog needs more than city life, and I crave the wild. A place where I can let my stubby little legs carry me across roots, through bushes, and over mossy rocks. Now here's the thing about Henry. He's what I call indoorsy. He claims he's not, but I've seen him try to put on hiking boots. It's an ordeal. But bless his heart, once a week he humors me with a trip to the forest. I make sure to remind him bright and early every Saturday by nudging his face with my wet nose until he finally gives in. His groans, his sleepy mumbling, it's the symphony of victory for a dog who's ready for an adventure. The car ride is a thrill. There's nothing like sticking my head out the window, feeling the wind mess up my jowls. Henry, naturally, is worried I'll jump out, so he keeps one hand on my harness and one on the wheel. Safety first, he says. I let him think he's in control, but we both know who's in charge here. As we get closer to the forest, my whole body starts to vibrate with excitement. My nose is already picking up scents. Pine, wet earth, and the faint smell of squirrels. Squirrels. The car hasn't even stopped, and I'm practically dancing in the seat. Once my paws hit the ground, it's like I'm reborn. I lead Henry into the forest with a confidence he'll never understand. For him, every tree looks the same. But for me, it's a buffet of smells, a network of trails, each one a different story waiting to be explored. You see, dogs navigate by scent, and I'm no exception. Each whiff tells me who's been here, what they were doing, and whether they might have left me a little snack. Mushrooms, for instance, which I'm obsessed with, much to Henry's horror. The key to forest navigation is sniffing your way around, and my nose knows the way. I follow the scents of other dogs, the occasional fox, and that one raccoon who has the nerve to think this is his forest. I leave little P-mails at every key spot, just so the other forest dwellers know Frank was here. Henry, of course, rolls his eyes every time, muttering something about picking up after me. But that's just part of the ritual. Let's talk forest tricks. Humans seem to think they're the only ones who can read maps and find trails. Ha! I have my own secret techniques, thank you very much. First, I always keep Henry in my peripheral vision. It's like having a big, slow-moving anchor that keeps me from getting too lost. Second, I use the sun. I know what you're thinking. How does a dog know about the sun? But hey, you can't live in Brooklyn and not pick up a few survival skills. Then there's my favorite method, the scent compass. Every tree, bush, and clump of dirt has a unique aroma that tells me exactly where I am. Henry doesn't know it, but every time he calls me back, I'm just pretending not to know where I am to mess with him. Sometimes I'll even take a detour just to see the look of mild panic on his face. After all, he needs me to keep things interesting. Now here's the big question. Why am I so happy in the forest? It's simple. Freedom. In the city, I'm always on a leash, always dodging honking cars and avoiding things that make Henry shout, "No, Frank." But here it's just me, the trees, and an endless sky. I can dig up sticks without a care, roll in mud, which again Henry doesn't love, and chase after things that aren't just pigeons. It's pure bliss, and let's not forget the sounds. In the forest, I hear the wind in the leaves, birds chirping, the rustle of little critters. It's like nature's playlist, and each sound makes me feel more alive. Every now and then, Henry will sit down on a rock and just watch me, a soft smile on his face. I think he knows in those moments that this is my true happy place. Believe it or not, I've learned a lot from my forest adventures. For one, patience. Sometimes I'll sit and wait near a tree stump just to see if anything interesting shows up. And resilience too. Like that one time I got tangled in a bunch of thorny bushes. Did I panic? No. I carefully backed out bush by bush while Henry freaked out, calling my name. This is what I mean about him needing me. And let's talk about bravery. Once I came face to face with a raccoon. Henry shrieked, but I stood my ground. Sure, the raccoon might have looked at me with a bit too much sass, but I held my head high. No raccoon was going to intimidate Frank, the brave. It's moments like these that remind me why I need the forest. It's a place where I can be more than just Henry's bulldog. Out here, I'm a hero. When it's time to go, I feel a little pang of sadness, like leaving behind an old friend. The car ride home is quieter. I usually curl up, tired but happy, and rest my head on Henry's leg. He pats me absent-mindedly, probably thinking about his office job and Monday meetings, but I know he gets it, even if he doesn't say it out loud. And back in Brooklyn, as we walk up the stairs to our apartment, I leave one last P-mail on the corner, a little reminder of my day in the wild. Henry sighs, but he smiles too. We're back to the city grind, but in my dreams that night I'm back in the forest, navigating my way with my nose and living the wildlife. After all, a dog needs a little adventure. Even when we're back in the city, I carry a piece of the forest with me. Sure, I'll spend my weekdays lounging around the apartment, catching Henry's dropped crumbs, and barking at the delivery guy. But in my mind, I'm still that fearless explorer, ruler of the trees and guardian of the trail. I sometimes dream of the forest, the earthy smell of the ground, and the thrill of darting after critters. I wake up wagging my tail, my paws twitching as if I'm still running through those sun-dappled paths. You wouldn't know it just by looking at me, but I've got a wild heart. My neighbors, especially Mrs. Jensen down the hall, think I'm just some chunky bulldog who's too lazy to move. Well, joke's on them. They don't know about my double life as the king of the pines. When Henry talks to people about me, he just says, "Frank's a bit of an adventurer." But it's not just a bit. I'm practically a legend. Frank the brave, Frank the swift. Don't laugh. I can be fast when I need to. Frank, the wilderness warrior. Top tips for navigating the wild. Tip 1, the zigzag tactic. You see, the forest isn't about straight lines. The best smells are never in a straight line. So I like to zigzag my way along the trails, making sure to sniff every leaf, every clump of moss, and every suspicious-looking patch of dirt. Henry tries to keep up, bless him, but it's hard for a human to understand the fine art of zigzagging. Just as well, I don't want him stealing all my good sniffing spots. Tip 2, the look-back check. While I love to lead, I always do the occasional look-back to make sure Henry is still there. It's my version of checking in, and it's mostly to reassure him. He thinks he's watching over me, but let's face it, I'm the one keeping tabs on him. If he's too far behind, I give him a little hurry-up bark. Gotta keep my human close. City folk are notoriously bad at forest survival. Tip 3, the surprise detour. Nothing spices up a forest walk like a good random detour. If I find a side trail, I'm taking it. Henry doesn't always appreciate this, but I'm doing him a favor. Why stick to one boring path when there are hidden trails just waiting to be sniffed? It's about the adventure, Henry. Get with the program. At the end of the day, the forest is more than just a place to sniff around. It's a part of who I am. Out there, I'm more than just a bulldog with a slobbery face and a wrinkly nose. I'm an explorer, a trailblazer, a friend to the trees and the critters, even that sassy raccoon. The forest is where I find freedom, where I can let go of the rules of the city and just be me. When Henry and I finally make it back to Brooklyn after a day in the forest, I feel content. He's exhausted, probably thinking about a long bath and a takeout dinner, but I'm happy. I curl up on my bed, paws muddy and heart full, and I dream of the forest until the next adventure. Because even a city dog needs a taste of the wild every now and then. And with Henry by my side, well, there's nowhere we can't go. So if you ever see me, Frank the Bulldog, trotting through the streets of Brooklyn with a confident little swagger, now you know why. The forest has my heart, and every walk there is my little slice of paradise.